The secret of Baek-Du-Dae-Gan, the backbone of the Korean Peninsula. The Korean Peninsula is a place where the Dan tribe, which is a group of spirit souls who have the energy of the Creator most abundantly, is living on the largest scale in the world. The Korean Peninsula used to be the center of material civilization in the age of Seoncheon, and shall be the center of spiritual civilization in the age of Hucheon. The Korean Peninsula is the land where everything returns to its origin it has come from when the end times come. The Korean Peninsula is the place where the first civilization of the planet Earth began, and where the present civilization of the planet Earth shall be terminated. The Korean Peninsula is a sacred land where a new spiritual civilization shall begin first on earth, and the covenant of the Creator made at the dawn of the universe shall be executed. The Korean Peninsula is where the stargates through which the energy of the heaven is supplied are installed most heavily. The Korean Peninsula is the hub of stargates that deliver the energy supplied from the heaven to all areas of the planet Earth. The heaven has been continuously supplying its energy to the people living on the Korean Peninsula to remind them of their identity as the descendants of the heaven. The heaven has been supplying the Dan tribe living on the Korean Peninsula with the Jeonggi of the heaven, composed of Cheongi, Jigi, and Ingi, to let them have pride and self-esteem in themselves. The heaven has been continuously supplying the Jeonggi of the heaven to prevent the Korean people living on the Korean Peninsula from forgetting their identity. The levels of spiritual and material civilizations of a nation are determined by the nature of Cheongi supplied from the heaven. The cultural and regional characteristics of a nation are determined by the nature of Jigi supplied from the heaven. On the other hand, the nature of Ingi supplied from the heaven determines the personalities of a people or the character of a nation. The main system of the heaven that supplies Cheongi, Jigi, and Ingi to the Korean Peninsula is located in the interdimensional space in the sky above Gyeongbokgung Palace in Seoul, South Korea. To be specific, the heavenly system that has supplied the Jeonggi of the heaven to the Korean Peninsula is operated in a vertical organizational structure in which related systems are organized into the upper, middle, and lower layers, and the system installed above Gyeongbokgung Palace in Seoul works as the center of the entire system by existing on the middle layer. On the upper layer of the supply chain for the heavenly Jeonggi on the Korean Peninsula, 4 energy centers are installed in 4 areas, each of which is in the north, south, east, and west of the main system, existing in the sky above Gyeongbok Palace. The energy centers existing on the upper layer are as follows. The Northern Energy Center is located on Baek-Du Mountain that has supplied the heavenly Jeonggi to the Korean Peninsula. The Southern Energy Center exists on Halla Mountain that has supplied the heavenly Jeonggi to the Korean Peninsula. In the east, the heavenly Jeonggi has been supplied to the Korean Peninsula from the energy center over the East Sea. In the west, the heavenly Jeonggi has been supplied to the Korean Peninsula from the energy center over the West Sea. Cheongi, Jigi, and Ingi supplied from the 4 regions in the north, south, east, and west of the Korean Peninsula have maintained the identity of the Korean people for many years. The energies of the heaven, which have come from the regions of the 4 cardinal directions of the Korean Peninsula, have been supplied throughout the Korean Peninsula and have dynamically acted on this land. The overall system for supplying the heavenly Jeonggi to the Korean Peninsula has been changed little by little over time. The main center for the supply of the heavenly Jeonggi, which had led the spiritual civilization of the Korean ancient times during the prehistoric era, was located in Mani Mountain in Ganghwa-do. Since the beginning of the period with recorded history, the supply chain for the heavenly Jeonggi had experienced 2 changes during the times of the 3 kingdoms of Korea and the Goryeo period, and its present structure was established during the Joseon dynasty. On the middle layer of the supply chain for the heavenly Jeonggi on the Korean Peninsula, 2 energy centers are located in 2 areas in the north and south of Seoul, respectively. The northern supply chain is installed in the sky above the Nangnim Mountains, and the southern supply chain is located in the sky above the Taebaek Mountains. On the other hand, there are a large number of energy centers on the lower layer of the supply chain, and they are densely installed all over the Korean Peninsula to supply the heavenly Jeonggi to this land. In the northern part of the Korean Peninsula, many energy supply centers supplying the heavenly Jeonggi to the North Korean region have been installed along the small mountain ranges that stretch out from the Nangnim Mountains and are operated in the form of a supply network. In the southern Korean Peninsula, the energy supply centers covering the South Korean region have been installed along the mountain ranges that extend from the Taebaek Mountains and are operated by forming a supply network. High mountains in local regions or those in villages all contain energy centers that supply the heavenly Jeonggi to their surroundings. Since ancient times, Korean people have known this fact and thus have believed that a big figure could be born with the help of the Jeonggi influencing his hometown. Also, they have believed that humans could live by receiving the Jeonggi appropriate for them. The ancestors of the Koreans, knowing about these heavenly energies, have believed that all living creatures could live by receiving the heavenly Jeonggi for the land they belong to. The heavenly Jeonggi, starting its relay from Baek-Du Mountain, runs down along Baek-Du-Dae-Gan and reaches Halla Mountain. This is the secret of the heaven regarding Baek-Du-Dae-Gan, the backbone of the Korean Peninsula. This is the secret of the Jeonggi of the Korean Peninsula associated with Baek-Du-Dae-Gan. In order to clarify the significance of Baek-Du-Dae-Gan, I, Captain Udeka, leave this message as a record. Through coordinating and communicating with the heaven. January 14th in 2021, Udeka wrote,